There we go. That's them gone. They're ringing me through Teams.
Well, if you're just joining us, Stephen hasn't just killed somebody in that little comment of, oh, I've just got rid of that person.
Yeah.
It's just someone was trying to ring. Hello. It's
Hello.
12 o'clock. It's midday. It's Wow Ergonomics. Wow Ergonomics. Sponsored by Backer Elkheisen. There we are. Which is the company that my guest works for, Steven Howe. Thanks for joining me again, Stephen.
Hi again, Graham. Good to be here.
Lots of good stuff to discuss today. If you're listening on any of the platforms other than Spotify, because that's a time-lapse problem, you can ask us a question and we may well comment on it. If you're on Spotify listening, think of a question in your head and maybe come along next time with that question, or just answer it for yourself as best you can, or Google it, because that sometimes comes up with some answers, but it also comes up with some rubbish, so don't maybe do that. So we are going to cover a few things today. One of the things that we do want to cover, let's cover this right from the beginning, is the health and wellbeing event, which is coming up very shortly. This month has just flown past, hasn't it, really?
Absolutely.
I don't know where the days have gone. I think it's partly to do with, especially this week, having children at home, etc., all the time, because the schools have been shut. For most people, that's been the case all the time as well. So, but with homeschooling going on and lockdown still continuing, I think people have found that the month's gone by very, very quickly. Hello, Lamin. That's an interesting name. It says hi.
Hi.
It's probably not as interesting for that person because that's their name. But for me, I've never heard that name before. Health and Wellbeing event is on February the 25th between 3:30 and 5:30. So it's a slightly later time than we normally start at. We normally start at 3 p.m. We thought we'd move it to 3:30 just to give some of our friends across the Atlantic a little bit more time to get some breakfast, but also to make it slightly later for some people that don't finish until maybe sort of 4 o'clock, and then they can still come and join in for the majority of the time. As you can see there, one of the guests that we've got talking is Mary Wilcox from Claro, and we've also got Charlotte from Magilla coming to talk to us. So the event this time round is very much focusing on what's typically called assistive technology. But I don't like it being called that because it makes it sound like assistive tech is only for people with a disability. And it's one of the things that we want to talk about at this event. A lot of assistive tech, as you know, I've been working in assistive tech for the last 5.5 years, is for, or was created with a purpose of helping people with particular disabilities, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, etc. But it also can be very liberating for people that haven't been diagnosed with a disability, and it can be incredibly productive as well. So that's why we want people to come along, because it's really interesting from the ergonomic point of view for people to understand that whilst it's great to get your desk all set up in terms of the right type of desk, the right type of chair, the right equipment, etc., on it from an ergonomic perspective, some of the adjustments that you can make aren't necessarily about those kind of tools. Some of the adjustments can be to do with how smartly you work. And if we begin to, as a community, understand how all of these things piece together, then we can really, really help people. So, over the years, for example, I found that I can, increase people's ability to type at some kind of speed by, tripling the amount of workload that they can get done in a day, which enables them to then have physical breaks, for example, or means that they're not physically pounding the keyboard for quite so long. So tech can be a really useful player, and it might be to do with cognition issues, how people organize their work, or how people structure particular things, and that if they struggle with that kind of organization, then again it's going to take them longer. And so many times that I've been doing assessments, Stephen, what I found is, some of the people that leave latest in the day and get there earliest in the morning are people that have got specific cognitive issues, for example, that mean that they have to work that little bit harder and that little bit longer in order to keep up with everybody else. And quite often I go in to see them from an ergonomics perspective, because they've also got issues physically, because they've been sat there longer than anybody else.
It's interesting. I did a sort of a presentation a few weeks ago with our CEO, John Van Hoeft, and one of the things he was sort of focusing on was around our software. But what he was saying is, from his perspective, almost the silver medal was to get the equipment and the accessories in place, but the gold medal was to implement the software. And when he was talking about specifically, there was a product we do, which is sort of brake software, encouraging movement and activity. But it was interesting, that analogy he'd used, that, great, you do need to get the accessories in, but actually you need to go a step further. You need to then get that, whether, whatever type of assistive tech it is, involved to really sort of build upon and take advantage of what you've put in place with any accessories that you've involved in your setup. So it's very much a two-step process.
Yeah, it is. And I know for a fact, and it's not, belittling anybody, but I know for a fact that there's an awful lot of people in the ergonomics world, for example, who don't know anything about assistive tech, and vice versa. And that's why creating a discussion between the two worlds, if you like, about what can be done, and because we're all trying to pull in the same direction, really. We're all trying to help people in terms of their productivity, and in terms of relieving stress, and and manifesting better work practices, etc. But if we don't understand the other side, then we can't signpost people in the right direction, and we can't necessarily help people as holistically as we should be doing. So it's really good to kind of try and bring people that know about assistive tech together with ergonomists, and bring those people together. I think the one in March is all going to be around nutrition and diet. Okay. Again, not something I know a huge amount about. I did a poll on it, in one of my famous polls in the morning. Okay. I said, I asked a question about that, and said, this is one of the topic areas that I'm looking to find out a bit more about myself this year, and gain some knowledge on. And a huge wave of people came back. But again, it's important that we learn a little bit more about what might be going on there. And I'll tell you a little story to this effect. I went to see, as a workplace assessment, I went to see a young lady at one of the high street banks. And I was asked to do this by a large health and safety company who were based up in Glasgow. And they just didn't want to come anywhere in my part of the country, because I live down in the southwest. But when I got there, she'd already seen one assessor, and they couldn't find anything seemingly wrong. So I went through all of the physiological side of things. I went through, what kind of pain she was experiencing, what kind of discomfort she was experiencing. I had a look at her physical setup, etc. I could see some small changes to be made, but nothing that really indicated why she was having some of the issues that she was having. So that we went to a consultation room to have a chat and a bit of a consultation, and it was just an inkling, really. I personally didn't actually have enough knowledge base to completely deal with it, but I just said to her, "What do you eat? What is it that you eat in a day?" Okay. And the answer came back: McDonald's, morning, noon, and night, every single day. McDonald's. Now, if you're from McDonald's, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with McDonald's, but even people from McDonald's would probably say, it's not advisable to eat McDonald's every single day of your life. obviously
three times a day.
3 times a day. It's probably better to get some fruit and veg and other bits and pieces in there. So I signposted her, hoping that it would help, to a dietitian through the report and through the through a GP referral, and it did really help. She saw a dietitian, she got into a more balanced diet, and some of the issues that she was having disappeared. So again, having a better understanding of what people, what could be the outcomes if people aren't necessarily taking the right steps diet wise, knowing where to signpost people to in terms of nutrition, diet, etc., can be really helpful. And and what kind of help and advice could be offered up there. So that's what we'll deal with in the March one, assistive technology this time. So
and the last one was really good, Graham, the January one. I mean, they've all been good. We've been running these for sort of, it is almost coming up to the anniversary, I guess. We did sort of kick them off around,
I think 8 or 9 months.
8, 9 months, April, May. But last one in particular, just some of the speakers we got along, or you got along, just adding a little bit different dimension, just more things for people to think about. Because we do sometimes in our sector get a little bit too driven by product. And yes, whilst that is important, there is, as you've touched on there with diet and assistive technology, there are other things that sit on the edge that need to be considered. So I think it's great, and equally we can learn from them, and potentially they can learn from us as well. And there may be issues they're coming across that we can help them with, and therefore they're a little bit more knowledgeable about what we do, and that might help them resolve some of the issues. So it's that whole sort of knowledge sharing piece, isn't it, really, is to say, this is what we're good at, that's what you're good at, but how can we sort of start merging the whole thing together?
Philippa Butler, who was one of the speakers at the last event, is listening. Thanks for listening, Philippa. So couldn't agree more. And I think, bringing people like Philippa in, that's obviously can talk about movement from a really practical point of view, and talk to us about how she helps people move and physical exercise, etc., on a day-to-day basis. Really, really important for us to understand what conversation it's part of. It's just understanding what conversations are going on with other people and other professionals outside of our remit and outside of our itinerary, because and that's the thing. Some people end up seeing 3 or 4 different professionals, and I've got a personal passion for thinking that actually, as a body of professionals that are all dealing with a particular individual, we all need to try and group together or learn from each other a little bit more. Not share confidential information about any particular client, but learn from the experiences that we have with those clients and bring it back to the table to everyone else to say, actually, what I found really helps with the kind of people you're dealing with there is this, and these are the kind of conversations I have. That broadening of understanding from everybody is not to try and create a group of people that understand and are experts in every single field, but as I say, that at least we are know where to start a conversation with someone, and actually can signpost someone towards, well, actually, talking to a specialist in that particular area really could help. So whatever it is, whether it's Pilates, yoga, diet, assistive technology, ergonomics, mental health, for me, all of these things come together in the assessment piece, and it's this should be a lesson as well, by the way, too, and it's the first subject of the day.
Okay.
It's taken us ages to get onto it, but first subject of the day is, when should DSE assessments be carried out? And it should be what we're saying here as well should actually be a bit of a red flag to anybody that just carries out DSE assessments as a tick box exercise, because just doing it, tick 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 tick. Is your workstation okay? Yes. Is the monitor at the right height? Yes. Have you got yes. Is your chair adjustable? Yes. I don't really understand that question. Yes, but I'll tick it anyway.
Yeah. The fear of ticking no.
Yeah, the fear of ticking no, or the I can't be asked here to, you know, if I start ticking no, what's that going to cause? Am I going to have a, you know, etc. But understanding that people do need all of these, this help on different levels from different professionals, and you know, we aren't just people that, you know, survive around the way your equipment's set up on your desk. It does matter what you put in your body. It does matter what's happening at home. It does matter, you know, what's going on with your mental health. Not dissecting those things from each other, and understanding that we may need to, as a business, incorporate a more holistic strategy is really important. So when it comes to DSE assessments, when should they be carried out, Stephen?
I mean, it's an interesting one. I think we sort of decided on this as a topic for the day, and I know we've had DSE as quite a common theme, but I think it's a really big area. I mean, why I wanted to sort of throw it out there a little bit is because of, you know, we've gone over the fact there's lots of new people getting involved in equipment for home because of, you know, home working being pushed on us, and it's new to lots of individuals, lots of new organizations are buying into it. But one of the things that I'd sort of picked up on speaking to people is a lot of companies have given, and I think we've touched on this before, giving people money to go and buy their own equipment.
Right.
But I think the real problem with that is that people are going out and buying equipment without potentially having had some sort of assessment done. So if they're given a pot of money to go and buy some kit, they're going and buying kit, it's then arriving, and then maybe almost thinking about the assessment afterwards.
Right.
But they've already gone and spent the money, and therefore have they gone and purchased something that isn't the right piece of equipment? So I guess that's one of the thoughts around this is to just make people aware that, you know, these assessments for me should be taking place before any investment in products taking place, because once you've done that assessment, you may well find what you've bought is the wrong equipment. What do you then do with it? You know, can it be returned? Are you able to get more budget? Have you spent your budget that your business has given to you, and you're left something that actually is going to make the problem worse rather than making it better? So I think that's, again, one of the, as I say, the way people are sort of adjusting to home working, they need to really consider when those assessments should be taking place.
Yeah. I see we've got Mark Rigby listening from Online Ergonomics. Hello, Mark. And I hope he'd agree with us here. But I think that, you know, fundamentally, that the assessment piece and the sales piece have to be separated out. I think that's the important thing for me. You know, it has to be that the assessment has to come prior to any kind of purchase. An educational piece, and I think it depends on exactly what we're talking about here. So there is a little bit about semantics here. If we're talking about educating the user via a webinar or you know, a one-to-one piece about how to use their equipment, that's absolutely fine, and that can come. That can be something that happens, you know, as part of the sales process, or as part of the after support or customer service for that particular product. But if that person requires a DSE assessment, it should be separated out, and be something that happens fundamentally before there's any element of sales involved in that, or any element of product provision in that, because otherwise, what are you assessing for? The whole point of an assessment is that a trained assessor, going back to what we've just been talking about, actually puts a second pair of eyes and ears, which are professionally trained, onto that situation, looks at how that person's working, looks at you know, what particular physical disabilities or injuries that person's previously got or now has, looks at, you know, their workflow, looks at any other issues that person has, and works through with them for a set of solutions. And generally, in an assessor's head, in the first instance, those some of those solutions will be quite agnostic as well. And by that, I mean that they may go, well, actually, that person would benefit from, in the first instance, raising their monitor height because of this. Yes, because of a reason that they've seen, right? They may then drill that down to a product based on what physically is possible. Sometimes you can't clamp certain things to a certain desk, etc., or you can't use certain bits of kit in certain situations, or what has the best functionality or the best adjustment, etc. Based on their knowledge of what's out there on the market. But in the first instance, that should be a fairly agnostic view, unless there's a particular need seen and recognized for a particular ailment or particular issue at the point of the assessment, which leads only to one product and one product point. So Mark says time and money spent on an assessment is never money wasted, even if it subsequently reduces budget for procurement. It isn't. He's absolutely right. If it's paying, we can't say this enough. Paying for an expert to look at your needs and identify what your needs are will save both time and money, because ultimately, if not, you're going to end up with the wrong products, the wrong information about what it is you should be doing. And also a good assessment process. I think some people don't realize this as well. A good assessment process should actually have, as part of it, an ongoing assessment. Okay, so typically when I've been doing assessments for people in the past, and a lot of good corporate assessments out there, there's a review. So it's not just here's the assessment. There's the assessment, and then out of the assessment becomes a report. Out of the report comes a maybe a list to buy, and then procurement make those lists to buy, and then there's a review with the person to see whether those things are, and if things aren't working, it's then reviewed again by the assessor. There may be a second assessor. It's an ongoing process.
It's a journey. It isn't just you
correct.
Get there. It's not a I think, again, like we said before, the danger here is that someone does it, ticks it, and it's off my to-do list. I can forget about that. But especially when people are changing and moving, it does need to be an ongoing process. It doesn't just stop once it's been done once. So, and this is one of the things that we covered last week or the week before, Graham, is the vague nature of the rules around DSE, not making it sort of mandated, but being guidelines that leaves everything quite wide open, doesn't it, really, to interpretation and use or non-use by organizations. I mean, I do think one of the things I really hope comes from this whole social experiment around home working, agile working, because of COVID, is that more and more DSE assessments are undertaken. Because I was talking to a guy this morning who we'd provided with a vertical mouse, very simple product, vertical mouse. And he just said, simply that one piece of equipment, which I've never had before, has resolved a lot of the pain I've been experiencing. I said to him, have you ever had any sort of assessment? And he said, I've worked for my organization for 15 years, both office and home based. I've never, ever had anything, No. And one piece of equipment isn't the answer to everything, but it's instantly been able to sort of address a problem he's been having when he's been working 5, 6, 8 hours continuously, thousands and thousands of mouse clicks, and it's addressed one issue. So just by doing one thing, it's had a big difference. But again, it struck me that his length of time with an employer, he'd never had any sort of assessment wherever he was working from.
Philippa says she thinks she needs one of those. The conversation will be had afterwards. I think that's right. And I think, as well as that, though, I think the fact that you've touched on there, that it addressed one problem, is the other part of this as well. I think, employers need to start seeing this as a real opportunity, especially at the moment when your staff are dissipated around the country and are not coming together necessarily in one building, and they're actually working from all of these different areas in their homes. It's a good DSE is an opportunity to touch base and really find out whether your staff are getting along, or have the support that they need. So it's not just about a good DSE doesn't actually just cover those basic things within the DSE. A good DSE or a good assessment from a good assessor or good assessment company will actually cover, how they're getting on, what the relationship's like with the rest of their team, what the relationship's like with their manager. Are there any stumbling blocks? Does that create any additional pressure? Is there anything? It's an opportunity to talk to someone outside of the organization, and that can be so valuable for that organization because it can uncover things that organization don't know are stumbling blocks. And if that means that ultimately at the end of the day, not only does that person get a better chair because they need a better chair or whatever, but that actually you understand a little bit more about what's stopping that person from performing really well within your company, that's worth an absolute fortune.
And also staff retention, Graham. Organize. There's a real opportunity here. Organizations who maybe have got historical issues with headcount changing. It could be something as simple as that. Could it be the fact that their employees are not working in a healthy and productive workspace, and therefore they've never assessed that, and they've maybe thought it's because of hours or money or something else like that? But actually, is it the fact that they're not enjoying the workspace they're physically working in? And that could be the root of a lot of their issues with staff head turnover. So there's lots of things. It's a real opportunity for the organizations who really want to learn more about their people, keep their people, develop their people. This is a real opportunity to sort of get into that and see, actually, is there something we can do there that's going to assess those needs and ultimately benefit us as an organization?
Yeah. And all I would say to businesses is don't go into it thinking, oh my goodness, what's that going to end up costing me? Think about it the other way around. Think about what is it going to cost you if you don't be proactive? What does it actually cost you to have high staff turnover? What does it cost you to lose really good members of staff? And I've said to people before now, if they're a bad member of staff, and when it comes to something like an assessment, someone wants to have a conversation with me as an assessor to say, well, do you know what? I really don't think they're much of a fit here anyway. And, really, they're a pain. And I don't think it's, I think you should just, before you get an assessor involved in that, you should be making a decision as a business owner, right? Why are you employing that person? If you don't think that they're a good fit, if you don't think the relationship's right, what are you doing in the first place, right? A DSE assessment isn't going to cure that. A workstation assessment isn't going to cure that. Get your culture right first. Use this as part of the process of getting your culture right. But if you employ the right people in your business and you get better at employing the right people in the first place, you should want them to be as comfortable, productive, engaged as possible. And actually, the cost of it, within reason, should go out the window. So it's as simple as that. Right. On to a slightly different subject.
Oh, yes.
Which is shampoo as bars. Now, you picked this one.
I know, and it was something. It was a conversation I had with my wife earlier in the week, and she was talking about how shampoo, or the shampoo she uses, now comes in a bar. Now, I'd never heard of that, and clearly, I mean, lots of people probably will have done, but I'd never heard of it. But one of those things where, have you ever had it where you've never heard of a company before, You get told about them, and then every time remember we used to go and drive on the road and go and see people, when that comes back, you'd always used to see their vans or vehicles or branding. I'd never heard of this. It got mentioned the other day, and then last night I saw an advert for it. But this was one of the things that really interested me was around some of this creative packaging, some of the things that are out there, how products transforming. So shampoo transforming from a bottle product into a bar product. I just thought it was really interesting. So I just thought, throw it out there. What else is there where we can look at revolutionizing the way things are produced, packed? What can we? Is there any learnings from what's gone on with the whole COVID situation around the restrictions we've had that will change how things are produced and delivered to us in the future?
Well, do you know what? I'm lost for words really with this, because I have no idea about shampoo. I use the same one all the time. And it keeps my hair glued to my head, which is all I can hope for at this time of life. But no, I think I think what you're talking about here, in a way, is a conversation as well that goes on between the consumer and any manufacturer as well. Yeah. And I think with any kind of time and a change in a different generation and different cultural contexts, etc., you do see a change in the way things are delivered or have to be delivered in order to keep that product fresh within people's minds. So I think if you bring this back down to ergonomics per se, I think there probably is a need for the change. I would certainly say there is a change needed in terms of the way we package ergonomics. And I don't mean a particular product, although having said that, we have seen that. I know certainly within your company as well, have seen that physically manifest itself with a change away from plastics towards, cardboard containers, etc., over the last few years to be, a more sustainable solution in terms of packaging, but also, showing the client, that you're committed to that sustainability and climate change effort. And you've got your circular range as well, which is, not made from plastic that fills the bottom of the sea. So that again, that is useful context for clients. But I'm talking about ergonomics as a whole, or that this whole area as a whole, and the people involved in the business of it. I think that probably does need rebranding and repackaging for the current age, because I just think it's there's been a lot of conversations. We've had this conversation in the past about the term ergonomics. What does that mean, etc. I just think there's a lot of confusion within the general public about what this is all about and what's good information and what's bad information. We've almost kind of reached a sort of Wikipedia Google point in terms of this, which is you talk to academics, that one of the things they tell you is that if you're doing a degree, still try and go back to books that they or with authors that they know are good reference points for learning on a particular subject. Don't just Google it or look up Wikipedia, because can you qualify that information holds up academically? And the same can be said within the field of ergonomics. There's now 1 million experts in ergonomics, and is it easy enough for the people to decide what's right and what's wrong? And I think because of that, a lot of people kind of shy away from it and don't want to, or don't actually believe in it. One of the polls that I did was asking around this whole terminology type of thing, and the largest percentage of voters just felt that the term ergonomics was a marketing ploy. Now that tells us something, right? I think it was about 60-something% of the voters said ergonomics means this. It's just marketing talk. It's just use it. Why have people got that perception? It's because there's too many contradictions in terms of the way the term's being used. So for me,
how do we sort that, Graham? How do we sort? I mean, it's I don't know what the answer is, but that use and definition of the word ergonomics, and again, I know we touched on it last week, but it's sort of slightly frustrating when you see it repeatedly used incorrectly. And I mean in all sorts of formats. I mean, whether it's in emails, whether it's on social media, whether it's on websites, it's used incorrectly so much. You almost think, how do we ever put it right? Can we? Or,
well, I think you have to. I think you have to divide the things into two. So I think actually at the professional level, I think if you've got a group of people who are within a chartered body or an institutional body who are practicing professionals with qualifications in a particular field, they're talking to each other. You know that those people, right, by the nature of where they are, what their qualifications are, etc., are probably on the same page of what they're talking about, and how they use that terminology is, and there will be some differences there. It's all fine, because ultimately they're understanding it from a professional point of view. I think at general public level, I think part of the lesson to be learned here is to go back to actually what products do for people, as opposed to, or where they fit with people, as opposed to using the term ergonomics at all. And actually talk far more about, in terms of reaching people as well, talk to people about these products where they are. So by that, I mean, talk to people about these products using the terminology in the group that they're involved with. So if you've got a group of people that are creatives, for example, talking about the product from, a creative perspective, or how it enhances their creativity, or, it helps them with their productivity, etc. in terms of that creativity. If you've got a group of IT people, talk about it in terms of, how it fits in with their tech, and how it benefits them from a standpoint of the types of jobs that they do. If you've got a group of people who are digital nomads, talk to them about how this is flexible, it's on the go, it's about, look at individual groups, which is what marketing companies do, or good marketing companies do, and just look for the trends and the inspiration behind those particular groups, and talk to them within those areas. So I think that we need to see a lot more creative terminology and a lot more creative use of language within this whole sector. I'd like to see people getting away from, sort of tech speak in terms of, or just giving sort of like, well, this can adjust between and actually getting down to the root of, what is it that this group of people need as a solution, and just talking about the pain points for that community, and not using maybe just getting away from the use of the word ergonomic. That's really how I think you repackage some of these products. So like your shampoo that's now a bar. What's the purpose of that, by the way? It just makes it smaller.
Well, I presume to remove the need for the bottle.
So to remove packaging. So that it's appealing to a consumer from a climate change perspective. Okay.
Yes. Does it do the same job though? That's the question I'd be intrigued to know. Is it as effective by changing the packaging? Does the product work as well?
Well, I think at the end of the day, a product has to stand and fall by its own merits at the end of the day, so therefore, given that in mind, do you, for example, need to talk about the posture piece, or I mean, this is $1 million question, but do you need to talk about the posture piece, etc., if you're talking about some ergonomic accessories, if the range of ergonomic accessories are very climate friendly? Or is all the conversation that you need to talk about the climate piece?
Yeah, good point. I think it's got for me, it's two things. It's got to deliver from the posture piece, and can it also come from with an environmental angle benefit? That, I think there's two things. There's no point in being, oh, look at it, it's made from X, Y, and Z. But if it doesn't improve your posture, then it's a pointless product, isn't it? It has to deliver on two fronts. It has to be, does it do what it says on the tin?
Are we being stupid? Are we as an industry being stupid sometimes and thinking that our clients are too stupid? Or because at the end of the day, how many adverts for cars do you see where they go, it's a car, right? If you show your product holding a laptop,
yeah,
with a keyboard and mouse, right? They know that that's a laptop riser.
Yeah.
Or they don't know necessarily what it's called, but they know what it does.
Yeah. But what is it going to deliver for them?
Yeah.
What's the benefit? What's it going to bring to them? What are they going to get from that? From using that, what are they going to get personally?
Yeah. Yeah. And is that all about posture, or is that the benefit? It is, again, it's going that little bit further. Is it talking about then the posture bit, which can sometimes sound a little bit schoolmasterish?
Yeah.
Or is it actually going further than that and going, don't talk about the posture bit, but talk about the benefit of the posture bit?
Yeah.
Want to live longer? I mean, if you put it that way, if you go, healthy lifestyle, not eating too much, moving more, being more dynamic in the way that you work, etc. Yeah, you'll live longer, you'll be more healthy. You'll get to see this and that. Your grandchildren grow up, etc. If I'm not being funny, but if you feed into those aspirational things in life, etc., and go, by adopting this lifestyle, you will this. And getting back to the conversation that we had before as well, where I said, it's important that as professionals we come together to offer people a more holistic approach. Maybe in marketing you have to offer a more holistic viewpoint as well. So it's not just down to this product.
Yeah,
this product is part of a lifestyle choice. It's part of you want to be this kind of person. In order to be this kind of person, this is one of the products that would fit into that kind of lifestyle. Enough said, because I think that's subtly how things work these days.
I think we need, Graham, back to the very title of the topic. I think we need to invest this week in a shampoo as a bar of soap and report back next week on its effectiveness.
I think that'd be great. I haven't seen one of yet, but if anyone knows where they can put their hands on a bar of soap, a shampoo bar of soap, that would either like to come on next week and report back on its effectiveness for us, because I'd be loath to try it, to be honest, because I have to stick. Yeah, well, I have to stick with my £1 bottle of certain shampoo,
right?
But otherwise I get flakes, like cornflakes. I have to stick with that. But if anyone wants to road test it and come back and report, that would be great, and we'll give them a link to come onto the show next week.
Yeah. Apparently, we've never lived.
Yeah, we've never lived.
If we've never used a shampoo bar, we've never lived.
Oh yeah, well, Philippa, if you are volunteering to come on next week, having tried your bar of soap shampoo, that your game on. Yeah. We'll definitely be up for that. So
absolutely.
Wait for Philippa's report next week, everybody. Yeah. Right, final one.
You picked up on this morning, Graham. You were telling me about this. It was intriguing. We said we've got to crowbar this somewhere into our session today.
I saw a post first thing this morning. It was referencing a survey that had been done with IBM of 3,000 CEOs of companies who were overperforming. Yeah, so doing better than most other companies.
A global study, I presume, this, Graham.
Global study at the moment. So, and really quite interesting. And then what they did was a guy called Mark Foster, who's the senior vice president of IBM. There was a little video that he's made. If you want to go and Google that, that's fine. You can Google things like that. He's done a little video sort of breaking down the sort of three main areas that any of these businesses see as really important in order to get, have a focus on as a business in order to be successful in this next dawn of mankind. So, and the three things were, just breaking them down: technology, which they broke down into three sections, which was Internet of Things, AI, and cloud, which I can completely understand. You've got to have the right technological infrastructure in order to succeed and exponentially grow at the moment. Do you understand all things to do with the internet, social media, websites, your customer facing profile, etc.? Do you understand the benefits of AI? And we're not there talking about replacing people per se, but we are talking about where you do replace elements of what people have done traditionally, that take forever and are not productive, and allowing your staff to be more productive, but also using AI at the customer face as well to help customers make the right decisions and give better customer service. And also cloud means that you can be more agile. You can effectively work anywhere, and you can work faster, and you can implement new strategies and new ideas and new technologies quicker, because you can build and scaffold build onto cloud quicker than you can any kind of native technology. But the second one and the third one were really interesting, because the second one was people, and in particular the well-being of your people. Now, I thought that was fascinating because it comes into what we were saying, and we'll touch on that in a minute. And the third one was partnerships. So recognizing that as a business that you can't do this alone, but you need to partner with other businesses. So I just thought that was really quite interesting. Please do go and check out that survey and Mark Foster's report on that. But what did you think when I told you about that this morning?
I think it was interesting. And that's why I think we moved a few things around to sort of discuss that today. I think that the last one, touching on that around partners, is an interesting one. And I can only speak for, I'll speak for us as an organisation. We work with a large range of partners in different countries to take our product to the marketplace. So it's a terminology that we are familiar with as a business, but actually it's something we really buy in as backer elk cows, and that actually to exist and to succeed, we need our partners. So I think it's to me, I think it's just a change of. I think it's a great piece of terminology that it shows that actually there's a number of people involved in the story of success. It isn't just one person or one organization doing it on their own. You need other people to buy into what you're looking to achieve. And by definition, they should therefore be considered partners in the whole process. So I think that's really important. And I think it's absolutely right. The people who are engaging with more people to succeed, the more people you have working to that common goal, gives it a greater chance of success. So that's a really interesting one on the partners. The other one, Graham, I mean, we've talked about, health and well-being, etc. for goodness knows how long, but absolutely those businesses that are doing well, and I don't want to go back to the DSE piece because it won't necessarily be that. It could well be, But those companies who are really looking after their employees in these difficult times of working from home and the conditions that aren't ideal, are the business succeeding? Well, I think we probably knew that already. I think this is a real sort of rubber stamp of the things that we have been talking about, other people in our area have been talking about, is if you look after the health and well-being of your staff, it will deliver success. And hey presto, of the 3,000 CEOs of those organizations who are overperforming, they're seeing well-being and health of their staff as something that's very important. So actually, I think it's really good that that's come out. I think it's really important that, and maybe it will get people and organizations who aren't necessarily, I'm not saying they're doing nothing, but aren't focusing maybe as heavily as they should. Maybe they will look at this survey and go, actually, it's time we really invested in our people and our health and well-being and their health and well-being, because they are succeeding over there by doing it. Maybe that's something we really need to get on board with, and we really need to up our game in that area.
Yeah, and I think there's a whole piece in there as well around flexibility and being agile. So, I mean, I think one of the things that came out of this report is the fact that, certainly in terms of people well-being, it's not a regimented people well-being as well. It's about adopting a more agile and flexible approach, and that then allows your team to flex better anyway. So, with that, with what's going on still at the moment, a lot of people not going back to the office, or if they are going back to the office, that companies thinking about how they use those office spaces, what's the right way forward in terms of those office spaces for the future. Perhaps the lesson to be learnt there as well from these companies is that actually stop trying to worry about your office space quite so much, and actually first and foremost worry about your people. Right. For some people, it is going to be absolutely vital that people do, as soon as they can, get back to a shared space. Because they need that kind of human transaction. They need that kind of creative spark from people that lacks a little bit over the digital network, as it were.
Yeah.
But other people within your business may not necessarily thrive in that environment. And what we've learned through all of this now is that, some people have really thrived from working from home, etc. So, just think about that from a landscape point of view, and don't necessarily rush into anything, and make any of your decisions really people focused, as opposed to, focused on where you think you need to be in terms of office design or office layout or anything like that. Maybe it's okay for Harry, that does the accounts, for example, to pop into an office once in a blue moon, but actually spend most of his time working from home. Maybe not at the moment when the kids are there, but in normal circumstances, maybe he'll say to you, actually, when I'm at home, compared with when I'm in the office and I've got those people talking around me all of the time, I can really focus. My productivity has really benefited from me being my own personal space. And actually, for what I'm doing, I don't need to be constantly bombarded with other people and their chat, etc. Other people that are more in a more creative role or a more sales-based role or whatever, that actually may need to have that interaction or be coming up with new ideas or new product lines or whatever, they may need that space. But think about, then again, talk to them. This is the best opportunity to talk to them about what that space needs to look like. So we've talked about a little bit about that before. That whole people well-being thing, I think, really fits in with that kind of flexible, agile approach as well.
I think also, Graham, I think within people's own jobs, they will, if we talk about this hybrid, will someone go back in the office 1 day a week or 2 or 3 or whatever it will be? I think what individuals will identify or have identified from this home working piece is there are certain tasks that I as an individual will do when I'm working from home, it could be the administration piece, it could be the bit that's sort of numbers based, that you need that peace and quiet, but they'll also identify, actually, that creative part of my role works better in the office. So I think people will divide their weeks up depending on their location, as you say, not just for individuals with their jobs, but I think for an individual within their own job will decide, actually, from this, what tasks have I found I'm more efficient at home? What tasks don't work at home and need to take to the office? So I think people will build their working week around the type of activity they are doing. And as I say, there'll be certain jobs that maybe work well all the time at home, or some all the time in the office. But for most of us, it'll be a combination, and we will determine the task we are undertaking that day to be most successful, depending on where we are actually basing ourselves that day.
And just going back to the partnership thing to finish with as well, I think there's a piece there that I've seen some other statistics somewhere else about the amount of people that have started a business during this pandemic as well, which has been quite interesting. There's been quite high figures in this country of people starting a business, well, certainly around the sort of consultancy line, etc. And maybe that's something for businesses to think about as well, that maybe, dare I say it, in some sectors of your business, you don't necessarily want to employ people in-house anymore.
Yeah. Did we not? We did an event, Graham, and I forget if it was October, November, and we did a piece with the virtual assistant community, didn't we? And I think that's the community that's really thrived during lockdown. And I know we've spoken, individually at some of our sort of sessions with that community, but I think that's another area where there will be tasks within organizations, as you say, that actually fit perfectly with those VAs who specialize in certain areas, allowing people to create to carry on and perform in those other areas that maybe they're more suited to. So that ties in with the whole VA community expanding, doesn't it?
Well, exactly that, and I just think it's about looking at specialisms as well. It's like as a business, you want to remain agile, you want to be able to move as you need to move. It may well be that you just need to look at, rather than how do we reach that next step so that we can afford to take someone of that nature on into the business, or actually can we just go straight to that next step? By employing that person piecemeal to do what it is that we need to do. Now to actually get on the ladder with that, and work with someone that's a proved person within their industry that can really deliver on that side of things, and it just moves us on quicker. And I think that will get looked at a lot within businesses. We've all been there. We've all been in a business where there's been some people in the business that you think, what do they actually do all day long? Rightly or wrongly. And I just think, well, I think businesses will look at this to stay agile. They will go, look, where's my product experts? Where who's actually needed within the business to drive the business forward as a team? And then who can we use outside of this, who are experts in their particular areas that can help drive this business forward much quicker, because they're already there in that area. They're already performing in that area, and they will drive us to the next stage much, much quicker. It might be a little bit more expensive, but actually we can just use them for when we need them. So actually, overall, it's not more expensive. It will just, it's about getting that right. So I can see all of those areas are very, very relevant. And I think it's an interesting report. 3,000 CEOs is quite a lot.
Absolutely. I'm going to look out for that later and share that. I think it's something that you've picked up on. I didn't pick up on it, but again, I think for a wider audience, it's good to get that information out there. I think one of the things to really come from me being a lot more active on LinkedIn is knowledge sharing, things that you may not pick up because maybe your algorithm doesn't deliver that piece of news and it passes you by. But actually, I think it would be really really useful to to share that out there.
Oh, the blessings of the algorithm.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thanks for joining me yet again. Do remember, folks, that if you want to get tickets for that event on the 25th, between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. If you go to my website, www.abetterwayoflife.co.uk, it's going across the bottom of the screen now, unless you're on Spotify, then you've just heard me say it.
Yeah.
Then go there. You can get your tickets. You just hit the book ticket. It's absolutely free. There's no cost for coming. We'd love to see you come along. It doesn't matter what field you're in, whether you're in HR, management, just management, anything to do with managing people. I think you'll find it a benefit to come along and meet with a group of people from different disciplines, different backgrounds, that all have the health and safety and the health and well-being of teams of people at heart. And that's what it's really about. So thanks for joining in again, Stephen. This will be available to listen to on Spotify probably by about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And do listen. There's a ton of them now. I think there's almost 11, something like that.
Okay.
Wow, Ergonomics episodes for you to go back and listen to. That's it. That's 11 hours of your time you will never get back. Yeah. So, but thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week, same time. Bye for now.